Welcome to episode 19 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to share some thoughts on how to balance test prep and authentic learning. Visit truthforteachers.com to get the transcript, links to recommended resources, and to share your thoughts on the show. A big thank you to this episode's sponsor, GoNoodle. GoNoodle is a free website with interactive videos and games to help kids focus during the school day. I love GoNoodle because it makes it super easy for teachers to find the energizing or the calming breaks that kids need in order to stay engaged. Teachers can sign up for free at GoNoodle.com. So let's dive right into today's topic on balancing test prep and teaching. So if you're a regular listener of Truth for Teachers, or if you've read my new book, Unshakable, 20 Ways to Enjoy Teaching Every Day, No Matter What, then you know I can't talk about high-stakes tests without emphasizing the importance of having a clearly defined vision for why you teach. No matter how others may choose to evaluate your work, you can't define your own success as a teacher according to whether your students pass a standardized test. That's a recipe for frustration and burnout. Instead, get clear about the reason why you do what you do each day. You have a reason for being in the profession that goes beyond just getting a paycheck. There's a lot easier ways to get a paycheck in this world. Why are you in the classroom? Do you want to make a difference in the lives of troubled kids? Do you want to inspire students to love learning? Go into the classroom each day with a single-minded focus on making that meaningful impact on kids. Keep your vision in the forefront of your mind at all times. Remind yourself of it when you enter the classroom each morning. Reflect on it in the afternoons when you're leaving the building. You have a purpose. You have a calling. You have a unique opportunity to impact the next generation. And all of this goes far beyond anything that is related to a test. A strong vision for teaching will permeate everything you do in the classroom. It'll bring a deeper sense of purpose to test prep activities that can otherwise be really disheartening. And it'll help you keep a bigger and healthier perspective, even if everyone around you is just focused on scores. Now, staying focused on your vision will also help you keep your enthusiasm, and that makes learning more enjoyable for kids. If you're stressed out from focusing too much on high-stakes assessment, your students are going to sense that, and it creates anxiety in them too. So one of the best things that you can do for students is to stop reminding them about the importance of standardized tests. When I first started teaching in Florida, I was horrified to learn that any of my third graders who didn't pass the test were going to be retained. And I felt tremendous pressure to get all the kids on grade level because their future was on the line. Not passing the test was going to cost them an entire year of their lives repeating third grade. And so I used to get very stressed out because I felt like I cared more about my kids' scores than most of them did. I mean, they're 8 years old. How much do they care, really, right? So I would constantly remind them, pay attention. You need to know this. The test is in 2 months. If you don't pass this test, you're going to be in third grade again next year. Is that what you want? That kind of attitude was just part of the school culture there at that time. All the teachers around me were doing it too. So I thought it was okay. And in fact, I kind of thought I was doing my kids a favor because I was making sure that they knew what was at stake and what was on the line here. So I always send home parent surveys to get feedback on how the school year went. And generally, I let parents complete these anonymously because I like to have an honest critique. And that year, one of the parents said that I stressed her son out so much that his stomach was in knots every single day. She said he didn't sleep at night, he was crying all the time, he was just constantly anxious about passing the test. And reading that made me sick to my stomach. I had no idea who the child was because the surveys were anonymous and none of the parents or kids had reported anything like that to me during the school year. It was a complete shock. And it's part of the reason why I think that parent surveys are so important. If I hadn't specifically asked for feedback, just for me, nothing that gets reported to my principal, nothing that gets factored into my evaluation, just a personal reflection tool for myself. If I hadn't asked for that, I would never have known. And I probably would have tortured the next year's class again without even realizing I was doing it. I realized when I read that parent's comments that I wasn't helping my students by overemphasizing the test. I mean, it seems kind of obvious now in retrospect, but when you're doing your job and you're working so hard and kids' futures are on the line and you see them just sitting there goofing off and playing around in class, I think it's really natural to want to put some of the pressure on their shoulders and try to make them take things seriously. But the solution is probably the exact opposite. I think too many people are already taking the test too seriously. And the kids who aren't taking it seriously aren't going to change just because you're yelling or you're threatening them with retention. Kids need to know the importance of the test, but more importantly, they need to know the importance of learning and hard work. So we have to stay focused on getting them motivated and helping them take ownership of their learning. We have to help them see the value of the task at hand so they're intrinsically motivated. And we have to give them valuable tasks, too. We can't fault kids for not being gritty and not putting forth effort if the majority of tasks they're given are boring and rote and meaningless. So constantly looking for new ways to help kids practice tested skills in authentic contexts and real-world projects is really critical. And that takes time and energy on our part, for sure. But the effort pays itself back in spades because student engagement goes up and teaching becomes more enjoyable. We can't wait for someone else to make teaching fun again. We have to plan for it. We can exercise our creativity and figure out ways for kids to practice tested skills without using a test prep format. Students do need to know test-taking strategies. They need to be familiar with the format of the tests they're going to be taking. But most kids don't need daily or even weekly exposure to the format. We can experiment with alternative strategies for implementing test prep activities and all those worksheets that we're mandated to give. So for example, instead of passing out a review worksheet every day as an independent warm-up, try projecting the page for your class to see sometimes and have them work with a partner to solve the problem collaboratively, and then they can talk about their strategies. So that gets kids talking and thinking deeply as they have to explain their thinking and agree on what strategies to use to problem solve. Or you can try reviewing the answers from a regular test prep activity together in a playful game format. You can have kids award themselves a point for each answer they get right and challenge them to reach a set number of points by the end of the month. Or have them play Scoot. Scoot is a game where there's one problem on a card at each student desk. You can even just take a worksheet and cut apart the questions. So there's one slip on every desk. And kids answer the questions on their own sheet of paper. Every 30 seconds, they scoot one seat to the right, and they answer the question that's on the desk they move to. So it's a lot of fun, and kids just love the chance of getting to move around in between answering questions. It's just a different way to practice. You could also pass out individual dry erase boards. And as you display each problem for the class to solve, kids can write the answer on their boards. And they hold the boards up for you to see, and you can give immediate feedback. For some reason, there's just something about using markers and boards that make even test prep seem more engaging for kids. And if you have iPads in your classroom, students can use a free app like Show Me to record their work. Have them solve in the Show Me app, where they're writing just directly on the screen, and they're recording a narration of how they solved. I really like this strategy because it encourages kids to think deeply about the question, about their own thinking. So rather than rushing through 5 questions and just picking A, B, C, or D, they're getting to really delve deeply into one specific question or strategy and explain their reasoning. And since it's just a practice activity, you don't even have to have students submit the work to you for assessment if you don't want to. They can save it in their digital portfolio, or they can play it for a classmate and discuss their strategies, and then delete it. So simple strategies like these just kind of mix things up, and they keep you and your students from feeling overburdened with worksheets, and they kind of make test prep feel more like the other things that you do in the classroom, the more meaningful activities that you do. Ultimately, we teach students, not standards. So don't wait for someone in your district or state to reiterate that. Make it true, starting today, in your daily practice. The takeaway truth I want you to remember this week is this: you are more than a test score, and so are your students. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic week. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.